I'm Councillor Mary Kouros, representing North Ward.
And I'm Councillor Henry Davis from the South Ward, and we're both elected council members of the City of Adelaide.
Adelaide City Talks is your window into the City of Adelaide and all the things that make our city great, and that keeps it that way.
Now, we don't always agree on everything,
And our views are our own,
but we don't hold back or skirt around the big issues.
because this is our city,
And it's your city.
and there's a lot to talk about.
So join us for Adelaide City Talks. Welcome to another podcast for Adelaide City Talks. We're going to be talking about the meeting that happened on the 13th of February today, joined by Mary Kouros. How are you?
Really good, Henry. Welcome back.
Thank you. I've had a great
Did you have
holiday.
a nice break?
I did. I did a bit of a world tour.
Yes.
Through Rome and Barcelona, London, Edinburgh, Amsterdam, Paris, and then off to Bali.
Fantastic.
Apparently I was missed.
You were. Well, for one meeting. I mean, I think it's really good of you, though, Henry, that you took your time to go away during the time we don't have council meetings. And most councillors actually take June and July off. We're heavily in council at that time. But you only really missed one meeting?
I missed one meeting.
One meeting.
But apparently that was a big tragedy. So,
Yes.
the strange thing was criticising me for not being in the chamber to kind of talk about, the program, the leadership program I was talking about. But I couldn't be there anyway because that would have been a conflict.
Oh, look, I found that very strange, and I really felt bad for them talking about you when you weren't there, because I feel that it actually is not fair. I think that you really should be given the opportunity to discuss what you are asking for, but you were asking well within your rights because it was under a certain amount, which would have been CEO delegation.
Right. Yeah.
But because they asked to do the AICD course, which is $10,000 per person,
Right.
they put that as a decision altogether.
Yeah.
So there were 4 councillors that weren't named, that requested to do the course, and they needed to up the budget, and they included your request as well.
Yeah. Well, and I thought that was strange because the program, it was already within the existing policy.
Exactly.
So I thought it was very strange for the administration to bring it to the chamber.
Yep.
I didn't really think it needed to be.
But then when I questioned that, I was told that the reason why it was brought to the chamber is because it was an overseas holiday, and because it was flights and it was accommodation.
But I
you
was
weren't
only seeking the
that.
course fees.
Exactly.
So
you weren't requesting for that cost. So I still didn't see how that was relevant.
So I'm going to pay all accommodation, all the flights myself.
But I'm really sorry that happened. That was really cheeky of everyone to do that.
Well, it kind of turned into a bit of fun on my end, I think, in the end. So I was with my good friend George Mamalis and his fiancée Tatum Knowles from the Adelaide set, and we went over to Bali and we had a good time and had a very nice cocktail. Apparently that's news in South Australia.
Apparently.
I had no idea.
Apparently you made the advertiser.
I was sitting there.
What was the advertiser, wasn't it?
Yeah, was
it in Daily? I can't remember.
I actually turned my mind to it. I actually turned my mind to it and said, is this going to be a problem? I was like, no, absolutely. No one cares if, what I'm doing in Bali because, I was having a good time. They handed out all these sparklers and stuff and George was putting it on his story. I'm like, surely no one cares if I'm having a holiday in Bali and having a bit of dance, dancing around and having a cocktail. But apparently it was news.
In Daily, I think it was. Yeah. So good on you.
So I did a bit of a reply and
you got the conversation going about who makes the best cocktail in Adelaide.
That's right. It's definitely bar peripheral is definitely up there.
Yes.
And a couple of other recommendations as well. So
great.
But yeah, of course. So it was good to be back last Tuesday and see everyone as well. Everyone had a bit of a giggle on their face, I think. So.
Well, I think it was a little bit. It's so Adelaide. It's so Adelaide.
There must have been a very slow news day, I imagine.
Must have been. Well, you're back. We're in the swing of things.
Yeah, we are. And we're straight into budget. So budget time. And so during this period of council, we go through the budget. In our first term, we didn't do that until like a week before. But now we're starting a lot earlier.
Thank God.
And what I thought was really interesting was the rhetoric from the Lord Mayor. So I came into the meeting. I was running a little bit late for the workshop, and I heard the Lord Mayor going on about budget repair.
Yeah.
And she was saying, "Oh, no, we're still in budget repair. We're still in budget repair." And I thought, no. We've just increased our rates by some 10%, which is massive. It was a huge increase in rates, and that was supposed to be budget repair. But she was trying to continue on the rhetoric of we are still going to increase rates to a high degree. And she wanted to make sure that everybody knew that we're on the same page. And I said to her, no, I'm not on the same page. We've done budget repair. We're back into operations of normal. We have a long-term financial plan that the acting CEO, and his capacity as the CFO, said was financially sustainable. Now we should be confining ourselves to rate increases at the CPI, and I think in the long-term financial plan it's 3.6%. Right. Yeah. So, but it seems like the rhetoric is that no, we're going to actually still go on with this rhetoric of budget repair and increase rates well beyond CPI, and that I found very concerning, and I couldn't let that fly in the council meeting.
My view on that is the budget repair wording is a great marketing tool.
Yeah.
But in saying that also, though, Henry, let me just go back. We were always able to pay our bills. We weren't into any operation dire straits need to increase our rates for that purpose. The purpose of increasing the rates and calling it the budget repair is that if we want nice things, we need to up the rates a little bit. And so it's okay, a little bit, went to 10%, ouch. But there you go. It's there, it's done. And with that, we've got a $1.9 million surplus, which is meant to pay for any borrowings that we accumulate in regards to the repair.
A lot faster. Yeah.
So, okay, fair enough. But when you pose the question, we don't need the budget repair. We're
sustainable.
We're operating in a sustainable way. They said, yes, we are. Well, then we don't need to say budget repair anymore. No. We don't need to have those words. So I think, yes, enough. And let's all take a step back. The budget was being repaired during COVID. And the administration put in a lot of work. They found $20 million worth of efficiencies, which we were able to do through COVID because we had a really good look at our budget and where we were spending our money. So there were some significant repairs being done during that time. There is, you can call it a repair to get nice things if you want, but it's really, increasing your bottom line to be able to pay for nice things, which we all want.
Well, thanks for clarifying that, because my impression from the dominant faction was that the last council didn't do anything.
Well, they keep trying to push that rhetoric, but I'm not going to allow. I'm not going to allow.
And it's good. You always push back on that.
I do.
And they try every single time.
They try, but they weren't there. They're all newly elected members following Councillor Martin's, lead, shall I say? And I find it very disappointing that they're not actually looking at the facts.
Yeah. Now, moving on to sporting clubs and the parklands.
Wow, that's been in the media a bit, hasn't it?
It's this flip-flop. So it's we have a flip-flop council. So
flip-flop.
What happened? So what happened was
Where do you start? I mean, it just sounds like something out of a sitcom sometimes, doesn't it?
Yeah. So
I feel like I'm in a sitcom.
Yeah.
So we have our local club, Comets, work with administration. They like to increase their facilities at the sporting club to be able to play Premier League games.
Yep.
There is a requirement by the association in regards to that. For them to achieve that, they need a certain amount of upgrade to their infrastructure. Mind you, they're already there playing soccer. So we're not asking them anything different to what they're already doing in that space. So they worked hard with administration. They then put in administration advisor and then went through the proposal with them, what they can and can't do. This was put forward to Catatilla, which is the Parklands authority that we have, which is made of independent members, made up of the Councillor Snape, one councillor, and the Lord Mayor, Dr. Jane Lomax-Smith. Yep. So it's fairly well represented. On balance, we have council representation, we have state government representation, we have independent representation to review any proposals that come through the parklands. You would think that there's experts on that panel to be able to give you a determination on the proposal. This then was approved unanimously at the APLA. Then it came through committee and it was approved unanimously at committee. No objections, no questions, no questions to administration. It just sailed through and everyone just thought, I thought, okay, we're all good here.
But turning up to the council meeting.
The club thought they were all good. There was no reservations at the committee. They ticked all the boxes. No questions. No
request
nothing.
for information.
No request for information.
And then we rocked up to a council meeting.
which you
and I thought was interesting because Mark Siebentritt looked to be completely blindsided by that.
Well,
because he was the one who moved it. So he then moved in line with the recommendation from the committee.
He did. So
and then
he
all of a
moved
sudden,
the recommendation, and did I second that? I think I did second that.
Yeah. And I thought it was just going to go through.
I did. I didn't think that all the questions were answered by APLA, and I detailed in the report. And I thought, that's it, done. We're good to go. But no.
But then they started. It was Janet Giles.
Deputy Lord Mayor. Oh no, sorry. I think it was Councillor Martin started it. Then it went to Councillor Giles, and then Councillor Noon, and then Councillor
and all of a
Snape,
sudden, all these people,
Councillor Elliott, getting up and saying we don't approve it. Now, I'm sorry. I'm just. It just does my head in. Sorry, Henry. It creates an illusion that the parklands are not free and accessible to the public. A 1 metre high fence creates an illusion.
That's what they were asking for. So that was the only contention.
There was a
1.1 metre high fence around the park.
No, around the soccer pitch.
Around the soccer pitch.
Which is 200 metres away from the main road.
Yeah.
Which is, then you look and you think, am I hearing right? You kind of are like, you're gobsmacked.
Yeah. And so this was news to us, and it appeared to be news to Mark Siebentritt as well.
It appeared to be news to everybody.
Well, they knew. They knew what was going to happen.
Very well.
So what we say is the dominant faction, and very clearly are, that's a very good example of them acting in concert, coming to a council.
And blindsiding everyone.
Blindsiding the club, the administration, us.
Lord Mayor.
There was no questions previously, and what they wanted to do was just delay it. But they didn't just chuck out the fence.
Sorry, let's just add to that. Deputy Lord Mayor Councillor Snape sits on on APLA.
Oh.
So he voted yes at APLA.
So he voted yes twice.
I went back to the minutes.
Yeah.
His only contentious issue over this proposal were trees.
You've got to ask yourself, how does that happen?
So
and what's going on in the background?
We've entrusted him. He's been nominated by and voted for by his faction to go on APLA to speak and represent the people on regarding Parklands matters. And the only thing he brought up was trees. Well done. Well done. So if your issue was the fence, come on.
Yeah.
Say it then.
It's dodgy though, isn't it?
Very. But, let's
multiple votes.
Can I just think about it for a moment, Henry? Sorry, I'm getting very passionate about it. Sorry. But we've got enclosed tennis courts.
Yep.
With more than a metre high fence.
Yep.
We've got horses.
Oh, they're everywhere.
We've got horses. 14 horses in our parklands that are fenced off.
Yep.
We have hockey clubs that are fenced off. We have bowling clubs that are fenced off. So if they're going to tell me that we can't vote for this because we're setting a precedent, hello, what's going on?
Yeah, but why shouldn't we? So my biggest point is that it's organisations like sporting clubs that defend our parklands the most. And because you've actually got boots on the ground, you've got people who use it. The whole point of the parklands is for people to use, right? So I have an issue when you put in a massive building and it stops the use of the open space. But here we've got a sporting club with a very, very healthy membership who are using that, staying active, building a community together, and they're using the parklands, maintaining the space. They're paying for everything. This isn't going to cost a cent.
Well,
and
actually,
the council is trying to stop them.
The state government's paying.
It's a state government grant.
It's a state government grant. 100%.
No cost to council.
Which begs different. It was on the radio today on 5AA. Does that mean that Councillor Elliott has a conflict because he works for the state government?
That's something I've always wondered.
It's weird.
It is very weird.
But let me just say, taking everything aside, the city of Adelaide is made up of so many different communities. And we have to be respectful of that. There are people that don't want anything in the parklands, and I respect that. And there are people that would think that every strip of the parklands should be used for sporting facilities. Not that I agree with that, but I respect that that's their view. There are people that believe that we should be building commercial enterprises on the parklands.
There's a councillor who
which I don't
ran
agree.
An election on that.
No, which I don't agree. But it does oppose a lot of different communities that use the parklands or have different views on the parklands. But at the end of the day, we look at things with merit. At the end of the day, we have processes. At the end of the day, we have a parklands APLA and our administration who work hard through these issues, and we should respect that.
Absolutely. All right. Well, moving on to nighttime activities?
Yeah, that's a real complex one as well, that one.
Yeah.
We have so many different culture changes coming out of COVID that we're feeling it. Businesses are feeling it.
And I definitely think so. As a younger guy, and single, go out town every now and again. I love shotgun willies above everything else. Or Memphis Blues Bar is a great little bar there with some live music. But it does seem to me that the nightlife in Adelaide is like seriously taking a hit. And my understanding is a lot of venues are not being patronised nearly as much as they used to be. And it looks like those numbers are down by 7%. Based on last year's figures. So there's a couple of different factors at play. It could be a generational thing. It could be that younger generations aren't doing that. And as the Lord Mayor actually made a pretty good point saying, are they now going to festivals? Is that where they want to spend their time? Or is it the case that something like lockout laws are having an impact? Or is it that, Hindley Street, those facilities are just, it's becoming grungy and dirty. There's not enough security, things like that.
But it's always been grungy and dirty, Henry. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm probably going to show my age. I mean, I've been down in my youth. This is in the 80s and the 90s.
Maybe it's becoming too clean. Maybe we need to make it a bit more grungy.
It was. That's what you loved about Hindley Street. It was grungy. It's where young people go, and it's meant to be the place where you think of when you go out with your friends. That is slowly going, and I think it's really over the years a combination of a lot of things. Back in the 80s and 90s, Rundle Street was nothing like it is today. That was the only strip that we had. Now you've got, 2 or 3 nightclubs down Rundle Street. So there's a competition has widened in this city since then. Second to that, cost of living is going up. I mean, the youth are thinking twice about, we're spending their money, and there is, alcohol's going up. It's very expensive, and, cocktails aren't cheap. Beer is not cheap. It's not like going to Bali and those cocktails are
expensive over there. Especially they're made of gold.
So I think the youth look at the value of money. So a festival gives them value of money. They will see so many acts with that one ticket and still be able to drink and have a good time. There is that factor too. The second factor is residents have the residential population has grown in the western side of the city as well. So there is also the noise factor that's coming. The residents are feeling that it's too noisy, so that there's a conflict between the clubs that are there and the residents living there, which I get. So there's a lot of factors. I have an idea. But that's just me. I think that we should be creating spaces like we do in the East End, where it's interesting for people to come to visit.
That seems to be what people are after a little bit more.
So for instance, just imagine if the West was known as a comedy club.
Yep.
The Comedy Club Central.
Yep.
Like you had a club down there that's
density and precincts.
That's right.
What we need. Yep.
So you want to have a good night out, you go to the comedy club, and then you might go to a restaurant afterwards or for a drink afterwards, or you might go and enjoy a nightclub somewhere.
Yeah.
You make a night of it, but there needs to be drawing factors to draw people into certain precincts.
That could be the other thing, like New Year's Eve moving precincts and things like that. But people are definitely out of the habits, I think, of going out. Now, we also need to think about, is that what we want? As a council, we want people going out at 2 a.m. in the morning, and what's the impact on traders and our young people? So what Councillor Abrahimzadeh did was to move a motion to get a report coming back to council. And I thought that was a really proactive move to get a hold of some of that data, talk with the stakeholders along Hindley Street and other hotel operators to get a better idea of what's happening in our city's nightlife. Is it something that's just dead, or is it something we are having a negative impact on, or is it lockout laws, or is it a cultural change? And it's something we as a capital city council need to understand.
But it's not something, shall I say, Henry, that it's something that council has ignored. We have been talking for the last 4 or 5 years, longer actually, much longer. I think former councillor Abiad created the conversation to looking at the precinct back then. With that, it brought in a master plan. With that, we're looking at upgrading the street and doing something with it. We're also upgrading Light Square to be able to have a plug-in ability so festivals can set up without any major costs.
Sorry.
Put that on mute. Do you know, if you're in council right now, that would be...
I'd get chucked out, wouldn't I?
Yeah. No more... Can't have your mobile phone in council.
Everyone's doing it. Oh, was it... you noticed Councillor Snape taking a photo of the guy giving a deputation?
I know.
The Lord Mayor just looks at him, doesn't care. Right,
No.
I touched my phone, and the Lord Mayor to take a photo of the wonderful looking Mark Seventry, because I thought he looked really good. I think because I'd like to see him run for federal politics at some point. So I took a photo of him because I thought he'd appreciate it. The Mayor jumps down my throat. Snape's there having a happy, clicking away, and I'm looking at her going, do you want to do anything?
Were you the?
And I said, did you want to? I know he's in your faction, and you need to make Councillor Snape happy, and you need to do what he tells you to do because he's the faction leader. But at least you can appear to be, neutral in the way that you run these meetings.
You're not bitter much, are you?
She no,
not much.
She's like, oh, all right, I guess I'll pull him up on the same thing I pulled you up on.
Oh, well, you have to. Yeah. I didn't realise that happened because I was actually looking at it.
She doesn't run a fair meeting, that's for sure.
Well, talking about fair meetings, I think, the way we've structured this committee and the way we structure our meetings, it doesn't really give a fair debate on every item that we're discussing.
And we spend way more time in committee than we do in council. But then they just come through and overturn stuff. And
I know.
They don't spend the...
I'm really,
we're just doing it
honestly,
twice for
Henry,
no purpose.
it actually makes me feel sick.
Yeah.
I feel that we're just rushing through it in council meetings, which is the most important part of council because it's where the decisions are final and made, and we're not even debating them, discussing them, and they're over in an hour.
Well, they might be able to change that. So we might actually have a new chamber, potentially. So the by-election complaint. Now, I was representing Rex Patrick in the Court of Disputed Returns over a possible election fraud. There was a lot of allegations going around at the time. They opened the ballots and I withdrew. Rex Patrick withdrew from the action. However, Alex Hyde, former councillor and candidate in the last election, has continued that action. Now, my understanding is that a lot of evidence has been presented. I went actually to the court one day and heard some of the evidence against Councillor Lee. And some of the comments that were made in private dinners and things like that, according to one witness. So we're apparently, my understanding is that we've got some final submissions and then that should be wrapping up hopefully in the next couple of months or so. And then we should get a determination about what's happening with Central Ward and whether there'll be a by-election for just one spot or four. And that'll be a very interesting time for Adelaide City. And could change the way that the council operates.
Do you think that's probably why they flip-flop on their votes? Because they're afraid of
it just seems very silly considering that you've got a sporting club who are trying to get 1.1 metre high fence around an oval.
People that think that they fight for the parklands.
But as this sporting club has thousands of members, it just doesn't. I don't get it. I don't understand.
That by-election is really, I think,
it doesn't
creating
seem very
a little bit of
intelligent.
tension for a lot of the Central Ward candidates. A possible by-election, shall I add? I'm not sure. I haven't been paying close attention to it. It will be interesting to see what the judge determines. Yeah. It will be interesting to see what the Electoral Commissioner says from that determination from the from this court hearing, because I think there are some questions in regards to the processes. So when do you think we're going to hear?
I'm hoping before the end of this financial year we'll have a judgment.
Just say it is found fraud, whatever it's found. So that means this council would have been running for 2 years as not a properly elected council.
Well, we would say that, that's correct. The decisions that we make, my understanding, would be still binding. But whoever the new elected members are, say if there is a Central Ward clean out, there's a new
newly
elected members, then we will just continue on. Nothing gets invalidated, but obviously the new council could unwind any decisions that they would want to.
Interesting.
With the new council.
It's going to be very interesting.
Oh, absolutely.
Very interesting.
It's a very interesting time to be in opposition in Adelaide City Council.
Which shouldn't be the case, that we should be.
But we just get cut. I mean, that's such a blatant, obvious caucusing before the meeting, and okay, you do you, but don't claim that you're not a faction when you all rock up, you all vote the same way, including Councillor Noon, who says, oh, no, I'm very independent. She knew what was going on, but we didn't. No. So the whole council isn't included in these discussions. No. It's only a select few. It's only half the council. Yeah. So,
I hear you.
Just come clean. Just come clean and say that you're in a faction, you vote together, And on this occasion, Mark Siebentritt clearly didn't get the memo, which was a bit embarrassing for him, I thought, because he moved the motion, and then his whole faction turns against him. I'm like, oh, that's a bit awkward. But yeah, just be honest about it.
What else have we had there, Henry?
Cultural policy.
Oh.
So there's been a lot of debate about Australia Day. Now, the council is also considering now its cultural policy. We had a workshop on what that cultural policy should look like. And what I found was that cultural policy is getting more and more vanilla, more devoid of detail, and actually of what we're actually trying to cultivate in our community. And it seems to me, let's say, multiculturalism now or something, or that's just what culture means, and redefining that word. But most importantly, what I saw very, very absent was any kind of celebration of Australia and Australian values and what it means to be in Australia. And it seems to me that national pride and pride in our country and pride in our sense of self is being stripped away. And this is not something that other countries struggle with. They're proud to be part of their nation. But it seems to me from a local government level that I'm getting the sense that if we put in our cultural policy that our ambition is to increase a sense of national pride and what it is to be Australian and to create a cohesive society that's proud to live in the beautiful Adelaide City, well, that's something taboo. And when I raised that, I said there's no policy here that talks about Australia Day and cultivating, those Australian values. Everyone I felt like they shrinked and they absolutely didn't want to talk about it. And the administration said, yeah, we'll take that on board and then quickly moved on. So that's something I would like to see in our cultural policy is what does it mean to be Australian? How are we going to promote our national pride? How are we going to celebrate the other cultures that form part of our society? And how are we going to make a more cohesive society? But it seems to me that we are restricting that document down and closing down debate. And I think that is a really troubling thing for a nation to do. And we as a local government we have the ability to turn that around. And I'm going to be pushing that this term.
And side note, this is not a creation from administration. This is the direction that administration have taken from council.
Oh, yeah.
So let's
they
be
feed
clear
into
on
to what the vibe is.
Into the feedback from the workshop, which for my feedback was there's not enough emphasis on multiculturalism in the cultural report. There wasn't enough emphasis to me on our arts as well. It was, it's meant to be, and meaning our arts, meaning our connection to education facilities that have got art programs. And the other one that I didn't feel that the culture was there for was for our youth. So I think there was a lot more work that needed to be done. So it's going to be interesting when that comes back in.
Yeah. No,
whether
absolutely.
Took on that feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really do want to push back against this homogenization of our society, and we should be celebrating. I get your point.
We should be proud of whoever we are.
Why isn't it? It's our cultural policy.
Australian.
Why isn't in our cultural policy one of the chief ambitions to generate community pride and pride in our nation? Everyone should be able to agree on that. We all live here.
Yeah, what is the problem?
And yes, there are bad things in our histories. There's bad things in all of our histories, but that is something that now gets us to where we are today.
Bad part of your history to be able to go forward and do better.
And we can still be proud of ourselves.
You can't bury it.
No.
It happened.
It did, and we can acknowledge it, and we can move on together rather than try to forget it ever happened, and it's such a touchy subject. No one can address it, and you're not allowed to be a proud Australian. I think that is something that is going to have a real negative impact on Australia's cohesiveness and our ability to be one, a nation and live in a common society.
Confusing our next generation.
Yeah, that's right.
I hear you, Henry.
Probably last thing, homelessness and housing policy.
Well, I don't think the housing policy, I voted for it on Tuesday night because you've got to move forward. You can't keep picking at things. But I really think it should be called housing aspiration, not a policy. So we're looking at 600 affordable housing over the next 4 years, which is like at 150 per annum. You're looking at 100, of 50 adaptable reuse properties per annum. And I can't remember what the other policy was, the other bit of the umbrella. I don't have it in front of me, sorry. But it's just not achievable. But it's more of an aspiration. It's what we aspire. So we aspire by 2036 to have a population of 50,000 per annum. And with that, we all believe that is a result of extra housing, but that also should be a result of other things like transport and facilities that are
All
within, all that comes with it. So it's really a really big piece that is all connected to other parts of our policy. But this one alone was about the housing. And I don't know about you, Henry, but if you speak to a lot of developers, it's hard to get properties off the ground.
Yep.
And I don't.
We've seen a lot of development approvals granted with no start date, no construction.
People are land banking because it's just too expensive, and the developers are waiting to be able to see what happens with the market before they do that. I myself am doing the same thing. I have got a proposal to do a development within the city, but I've held back because of the cost of doing of construction, and I'm not the only one. I'm only a mum and dad.
No.
I'm not a big developer.
And we've got council rates going up by 10% a year, and uncertainty about comments like budget repair and things like that.
Cost of doing business is going up. I just don't think it will happen. And I think that we're setting ourselves a target which is really going to let ourselves down. And although I think I voted for it, I thought, okay, like a lot of things, I went, okay, I'll go with it and see where it goes.
Yeah, so the target's 50,000. We currently have about 25,000 residents, keeping it simple. My calculation is about 30 apartment buildings with 500 dwellings in it each. That's major development. And from what I can see, if that's what the council's aspiration is, they're certainly doing everything not to achieve that by the policies that we're setting and the way that we're conducting ourselves. And trying to essentially, it seems to me, force businesses out of the city and to make a more hostile environment for the city, and yet they want to have this aspirational target of 50,000. So I question that. The administration assured me that, oh no, that was already in the pipeline to achieve 40,000.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure about that at all.
No, we did. We talked about 40. We talked about it. We didn't set a policy.
No, well, the administration said that the current pipeline would see the population grow to 40,000 anyway.
Yeah, in what, 10 years?
Yeah.
In 10
Which
years.
I didn't see how that worked.
Well, you can make it work. In my opinion, you can make it work as long as you put things in place like cutting red tape, making applications not so restrictive, ensuring maybe giving some form of rebate in some sort of way. Or the other one, what about our encroachment policy? Developers look at properties and go, right, okay, so we can't have the balcony above the first floor overhanging the footpath, so that any balconies have to be built in towards the development, the footprint of the development.
Whole footprint,
which when developers look at that, they go, well, okay, well that cost is going to be borne on me, so therefore the development's going to cost a lot higher because I'm not getting that back. I'm not getting any extra space in the apartment. That means the value of my apartment will be less. So they weigh it all up and they go, nah.
Yeah, it doesn't. And the way that construction costs are moving at the moment and interest rates, I think it makes a very hostile environment to many developments to get off the ground.
Yeah, so I think if we remove the red tape, look at some of our policies, look where we can enable people to come in and want to see it financially viable to want to build, then maybe I'd say, okay, maybe.
So, yeah. So
maybe
a bit skittish on a lot of these policies that are coming through.
But we have to set some sort of targets, but let's see where this goes.
Sure. So anything else we want to go through today? I think that's most of the meeting.
I think it's a big discussion is going to be happening with the budget, and I think I can't stress enough to everybody to please get involved. So please look at the bottom line. When you get the budget, business plan and budget, participate. And it's really important. That's it. We're out. We're done. And there's a code of conduct.
My mobile phone. All right. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
See you.
All right,
see you next time.